Okay, let's be honest. Relationships, they can be a bit of a minefield sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Even when things are generally pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are always those little spots, those tricky things that everybody seems to trip over.
Absolutely.
So, to help everybody out with that, we are doing a deep dive today
Okay.
into an article from Talkspace
Right.
called 15 Most Common Relationship Problems and Solutions. We're going to be talking arguments,
Uh-huh.
keeping the spark alive, even infidelity.
Wow.
Yeah, so get ready. It's going to be juicy.
That sounds like a really helpful article.
Yeah.
What I think is so fascinating about this piece is it doesn't just like point out the problems, right?
Yeah.
It actually gives you steps you can take to make things better. It's like a relationship toolkit.
Totally, yeah.
And, it's no surprise that healthy relationships are absolutely crucial to our well-being.
Yes,
Right.
for sure.
So this deep dive is perfect, whether you're looking to strengthen your current relationship
Yes.
or just kind of get a better grasp on relationship dynamics in general. I think we all can learn from this.
Absolutely. And it covers so much. This article really does cover it all. But I think we should start with something that everyone can relate to. Communication breakdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously, sometimes it feels like my partner and I are speaking completely different languages.
Oh, I hear you on that one. And it's so interesting because the article hits on this point.
Uh-huh.
And it even has this great quote
Okay.
from a Talkspace therapist named Megan Rice.
Okay.
And she says that, communication problems are the #1 reason that couples actually go to therapy.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because communication is the foundation. It's how you build everything else.
It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is they go beyond just saying talk more.
Yes.
They give you really specific techniques.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of those that stood out to you?
Well, they talk about, first of all, like identify where the conversation breaks down.
Oh, interesting.
Are you interrupting each other? Are you making assumptions? Are you
Wow.
just not listening?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, and this is where it gets really interesting, it challenges us to look at our own personal communication style.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how that might be clashing with our partner's style.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because we all have different communication styles.
We do.
Right. For example, maybe one of you is really, really direct.
Yes.
And the other person is much more subtle in how they say things.
Oh, yeah.
Recognizing those differences, I think, is so important
Huge.
in bridging that gap.
Yeah. And, it reminded me, reading that, of this one time when I was convinced my partner was upset with me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, like, getting all in my head about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it turned out I was completely misreading the situation.
It has.
That whole mind-reading expectation thing,
It's a trap.
it is a trap. And the article talks about that.
Yeah.
It's so real, and it's a recipe for disaster. What really stood out to me was this emphasis on expressing your feelings directly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Like using I statements instead of blaming the other person.
Right.
So instead of saying, you always make me feel,
Yes.
you say, I feel this way when.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic takeaway. And I know from my own personal experience that takes practice.
It does.
But it can really help you avoid these, like, unproductive arguments that just go nowhere.
Absolutely. Speaking of arguments, let's be honest, they're inevitable, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what I like is the article doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah.
They actually say that arguments can be productive.
Interesting.
It's all about how you handle them.
That's so true.
Right.
And I like how the article gives us these kind of simple but effective rules for arguing.
Yeah, what are some of those?
Well, one of the first ones was before you even open your mouth to say anything, just take a deep breath. Because, it sounds so basic.
Yeah,
But in the heat of the moment,
totally.
you forget to do that.
Yeah,
And then they talked about, the importance of avoiding name calling,
of course.
staying on topic,
Yeah.
using respectful language.
Uh-huh.
All of those simple things, I think, can really make a difference.
It's like you're creating a space where you can have a disagreement,
Yes.
but it doesn't turn into a free-for-all.
Absolutely.
Right.
Contain it.
Yes. And I love that they talk about scheduling time to actually discuss issues.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just letting things fester.
Right.
You're actually proactively creating that opportunity for dialogue.
Exactly.
I love that. That's such a smart strategy.
Yes.
It kind of takes the pressure off of those like spontaneous arguments that pop up out of nowhere,
Yeah,
you know.
for sure.
It allows you to approach things maybe from a little calmer mindset.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, let's move on to something that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially, as you get further into a relationship,
Okay.
staying close while growing apart.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because relationships evolve, people evolve.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can feel scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Change I think, can be intimidating for a lot of people.
It is.
But what I liked about how the article talked about this is it really reframed it in a way that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
It basically reminded me that individual growth isn't a threat to the relationship. It's actually essential.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We all have to grow.
Yes.
And the key is, I think, to make sure you're on the same page about the changes
Yes.
and how they might affect the relationship.
It's about navigating it together.
Yes.
Not resisting it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And I love how it talks about having open and honest conversations about the future.
Yes.
Like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? How can we support each other
Yes.
in those journeys?
And it made me think of this. You know how, two trees will grow side by side? And their branches will go in different directions?
Yes.
But their roots are still intertwined.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And they talk about how, just like a tree needs nourishment, rediscovering each other is so important.
It is. It's about making that effort.
Yes.
To stay curious about your partner,
Yes.
even after years and years.
Even when you think you know them inside and out.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's funny because that reminds me of when I first met my partner. I just found him so fascinating, and I would ask all these questions.
Yeah.
But then as the years go by, you just assume you know everything.
You get that comfortable?
You do. You get comfortable.
Yeah.
But this is a great reminder that we should always stay curious about our partners.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about a topic that sometimes feels a little awkward to talk about.
Okay.
But it's so important.
Okay.
Sex and intimacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
This is an area, right, where things can get complicated very quickly.
Absolutely. And, this article does a really good job of diving right into that.
It does.
The complexities.
Yes.
And it acknowledges that couples can face a whole range of sex-related problems, right?
Yeah.
From things like mismatched libidos
Yes.
to, just really struggling to communicate their desires to each other.
It's the communication. It all comes back to communication.
It does.
And I think a lot of people can relate to feeling awkward talking about this with their partner.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, it's probably the area where that open communication is most important.
It really is. You're absolutely right. The article stresses the importance of being able to express your needs, your desires, and being open to hearing your partners as well.
Absolutely.
It's about creating that safe space.
Yes.
Judgment-free.
Yes.
To have these conversations.
Yeah, and they say if it feels too overwhelming or if it's just too complex, that's a great time to seek help from a professional.
Absolutely.
From a sex therapist.
Yes. And I think that's such a good point. There's no shame in that.
No.
Seeking guidance from a professional.
Yeah.
Especially when we were talking about something as sensitive and personal as intimacy.
For sure. And sometimes these intimacy issues, they're connected to other emotional things, right?
Absolutely. And that's where I think couples therapy can be so helpful.
Yes.
In really uncovering what those underlying issues are.
Yeah.
And how you can work together.
Totally.
To address them.
Yeah. Okay, so for a topic that is so important but so difficult to discuss. Okay. Infidelity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a betrayal of trust that can be devastating to any relationship.
It can. It really can. And, the article does a really good job of talking about how challenging this is for a couple to deal with. And they point out that when infidelity occurs, the couple faces an incredibly difficult choice.
Yeah.
Right? To forgive and try to rebuild.
Right.
Or to just move on.
And there's no easy answer.
There really isn't.
It's so personal.
It is. It's so complex.
So complex, yeah.
But what the article emphasizes, and I really appreciate this, is regardless of what choice you make, honesty is so important.
Yes.
Right? Addressing the underlying issues. That led to the infidelity in the first place. That's crucial.
Yeah.
And then, and I think this is really important, is if the couple chooses to heal, that road is going to be long and challenging.
Yes, it is. And what really stood out to me was how they talked about emotional cheating.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about the physical intimacy. It's about forming those deep emotional connections.
Yes.
with somebody outside of your relationship.
And that can be just as damaging, if not more so.
It can, because it creates that distance.
Yes.
That secrecy.
Absolutely.
And speaking of things that can cause distance and stress, money.
Yes.
Money, money, money.
The root of all evil. Right.
I think we can all agree that finances can be a major source of tension in any relationship.
They can.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because the article even brings up this statistic.
Okay.
That over half of couples enter marriage already in debt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
It is.
To start a life together with.
Right.
So it's no wonder that it can put such a strain on the relationship.
But I like that they don't just leave us with, like, doom and gloom.
Right.
They give us advice on how to actually tackle these issues.
They do. They do. And they talk about the importance of, really understanding each other's financial situation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who's responsible for what? What are your goals? What are your shared goals?
Yeah.
And then they even suggest creating a budget together.
Yes, that's important.
Even if it's not the most romantic thing.
Right.
It can really help.
It's about being a team.
It is. It is. And I think that's so crucial when it comes to finances.
It is. And it's not just about the practical side of things.
Right.
Right. They talk about how financial stress can lead to mental health issues.
Absolutely.
It's all connected.
It is. And I think addressing those issues head on can have a really positive ripple effect on your relationship.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about something that can really impact a relationship.
Okay.
Trauma.
Yeah.
We all experience challenges in life.
We do.
But sometimes those challenges are so big that they can really leave these lasting emotional scars.
Yeah.
Right?
It can.
And the article talks about how these big events, like the death of a loved one, financial strain, a serious illness, these can put so much pressure on a couple.
Absolutely.
Because you're both dealing with your own pain. Right. But you're also trying to support each other.
It's hard to do both at the same time.
Really hard, yeah. And what I appreciate is that they don't shy away from the difficulty of that.
Yes, yes. And one of the things they emphasized that I thought was really powerful is that going through these experiences together as a team can actually strengthen your bond. And I think that's so important to remember.
It is.
The key is to really be there for each other.
Yes.
Offer support.
Yeah.
And remember that you're not alone in this.
You're not alone. And that's such a powerful message.
It is.
It really is. That support can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, so believe it or not, there's even more relationship gold in this article.
Oh, great.
So stay tuned.
I can't wait.
As we continue our deep dive into 15 most common relationship problems and solutions from Talkspace. And we are back for the final part of our deep dive.
I know. I can't believe we're already here.
I know. Into Talkspace's 15 most common relationship problems and solutions.
It's been such a fascinating conversation.
It has been a journey. We've covered so much.
We have.
But I feel like this article has one overarching message that ties everything together.
Oh, for sure.
What is it?
I kept thinking back to that quote from the Talkspace therapist Megan Rice when she said, to really fix these things in a relationship, it takes willingness and ownership.
Yes.
From both partners.
That's so powerful.
Isn't it?
Yes. It's like both people have to show up.
Yeah.
Be willing to do the work.
And acknowledge their role in it, too.
Yes.
Not just pointing fingers.
No, right.
It's a two-way street.
It is.
And I love that because they give us real steps we can take.
Absolutely, yeah. This isn't just some vague advice.
No, it's like, here are the things you can start doing today.
Yes, exactly.
Like we talked about expressing gratitude.
Yes.
Communicating more effectively, scheduling those date nights.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much that we can actually do.
I know. And I think that's what's so inspiring about this.
Yeah.
Is that even when things feel really tough, like there's no hope, there are things you can do.
There's always something you can do
to create positive change.
You don't have to settle.
You don't?
You can strive for something extraordinary.
Exactly.
And that actually makes me think of a question for you, our listeners.
Oh, good.
What's one area in your relationship that you would like to improve?
That's a good question.
And what is one small step? It doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah.
Just one small step you could take today.
Just one thing.
To start moving in that direction.
That's a great question for everybody to think about.
Because it's great to have all this knowledge.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything with it,
it's useless.
It's meaningless, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it alone.
You don't. And, There's so many resources out there like Talkspace.
Yes.
That can provide support, guidance. There's no shame in getting help.
There isn't.
It's a sign of strength.
It is.
That you want to make things better.
Absolutely.
And just remember, even the small changes make a difference.
They do, over time.
So be patient with yourself, with your partner, and never give up.
I love that.
On love.
That's a great way to end this, I think.
That wraps up our deep dive into relationship roadblocks and repair.
Hope everybody out there listening found it helpful.
We hope you found it insightful.
Yes.
Empowering.
Empowering, yes.
And remember, no matter what you are facing in your relationships, there's always hope.
There is, and there's always help.
Thanks for joining us.